We had meetings. DOJ had meetings. We had meetings. Frazier at the library, at the Earth and Spirit Center. We had Maxwell filmed most of them. But we had lots of engagement.
What did I film?
I'm just saying that a lot of the community engagement sessions that we had over the past 2 years.
And that's actually another question. Actually, do you have time for just a couple more questions about that?
Right now, I got to run, but I could talk at some point in time.
You can email me the questions about the community meetings.
Gotcha. Yeah. And are the copies available on the Louisville?
Yeah, it's online now. We released it.
Yeah,
Right
it went out with
started.
the press release. There's a link.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right, thanks, guys.
If I could just squeeze in one more question. The People's Considerate Resolution, was it considered as it relates to this Louisville?
A lot of what you see in that is reflected. I mean, that's like a 2-page document. This is 200 pages, so this has a lot more detail. But a lot of what's reflected in there is in here. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now, every provision of that, but I think you'll find a lot's reflected.
I just continue to be curious about the community's involvement in the structure of it in lieu of the response to it. Because outside of listening, where can be the listening sessions toward that?
Well, it's not just listening. We want input. We want to hear from the community too. I mean, that's what informed this 200-page document. That's what's going to inform the selection of the independent monitor, and that's what will inform moving forward through the community
And the
safety
community
commission.
safety commission.
It's not just listening. We want to hear from people too.
No. I'm referring to when you say the listening you have been doing in the community for the past year. That's what I've referred to.
Take a look at the document, and I think you'll see a lot of that reflects reforms that people have been asking for longer than 2 years.
I do look forward to the kind of meeting be set up, possibly meeting, an interview, or whatnot, even between the community.
You can shoot me an email.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Take care, guys. Nice to meet you, Mel.
I think it happens in real time. I think the biggest thing is that we have to figure out is how are we reviewing these things in real time. We can't wait for a year later to say that this has happened or hasn't happened. I don't know exactly what those mechanisms are, but I do look forward to working with and talking to the mayor about how do we do this accountability in real time and what does that mean? Continuous check. Yeah.
As politicians, do you believe the DOJ's decision under the Trump administration was political?
I mean, absolutely what the Trump administration is doing right now is politically motivated. Every single thing that they're doing. And I will stand on that. I will double down on that. But regardless of what's happening at the federal level, we need to come together as Democrats, Republicans, faith leaders, people who've been directly impacted to come together and figure out what is going to make our city the best city, what's going to make our police department the best police department, and what's going to make sure that citizens of Louisville are safe.
Do you feel like you have seen the reforms that they spoke about today, that as the mayor and as the chief are saying that they've made?
Yes, I mean, they said, I think the mayor said there's been over 250 reforms. I would like to see more exactly what those reforms are and what that looks like in real time. So I look forward to having those conversations.
Do you plan to, or have you already spoken to Tamika Palmer about how she feels?
I have not. I mean, I got the call. I think it was about 10:15 this morning that this press conference was going to happen, and so I definitely look forward to having a conversation with her and seeing what it is that she needs to be continued supported as she grieves, the murder of her daughter.
Through every note, every performance, the arts connect us. The arts connect us through joy and through awe, bridging cultures and generations. From intimate theaters to the grandest stages, the arts bring us together, reminding us that we're never truly alone. When we experience the arts, we experience each other. Kentucky Performing Arts. The arts connect us.
Hey guys, before we get back to the live stream, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality Bar and Grill, located at 3402 West Broadway. You guys got to come and check us out. You can call your order in, and the phone number is 502-822-1474. Again, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality. Come check us out, guys.
That's a fool right there. That's yeah.
I want to start with this first question, being universally. I'll start with you, Councilman Hawkins. How do you feel about this Louisville-based consent decree that was just announced?
Disappointed.
And Councilman Winninger?
Yeah, I'm disappointed. You know, the findings of the DOJ, as the mayor mentioned, were come to 2 years ago. It took Louisville too long to enter into agreement with the DOJ. Everyone knew this was a possibility with the change of administration. In fact, everyone knew this would happen with the change of administration. And so we took too long to come to terms, and that's why we're left with this process today.
Did this always feel inevitable that this is going to get taken away?
The second the elections happen. Absolutely. You know, it's very frustrating, but, you know, Louisville now, you know, we're going to have, you know, some amount of a consent decree. I'm glad that the mayor is, you know, committed to that process, that the chief has asked for accountability, because a consent decree means independent oversight. That is required. That's what a consent decree means. That cannot live with the branch that is under consent decree. We're not going to have judicial oversight in the courts of a consent decree. That oversight has to happen in the co-equal branch of government for the legislative. Government oversight and accountability is one of the only committees that is required by our city by state law. That's the one that has subpoena power. That's the one that exists for oversight of the executive. I think that we need an ordinance. I think we need an ordinance that's going to have the monitor make reports to government oversight and accountability, and the government oversight and accountability will use subpoena power to investigate if Louisville is meeting those marks. The mayor mentioned a 5-year timeline. In the negotiated consent decree, 5 years was a goal, not a deadline. You know, we can't say that we're going to be done in 5 years. You know, the consent decree isn't a checklist where we say problem solved, we moved on. It's continual checks on how are we doing, what did we do wrong, what did we do right. You know, so we need to make sure that we're having that happen. And I'll add for my last thought, we need to see the speedy reappointment of Inspector General Ed Harness.
Yes, definitely.
So
Now, the mayor stressed that the objectives in this local consent decree mirror that of the federal consent decree. So can you all elaborate on your disappointment if he's saying that it's going to be the same thing, it's just not federal?
I don't think that that's true. Until ordinance is put in place, right? Until the monitor has to uh, report to government accountability, uh, I don't think that they're definitely not to it.
have you,
So,
had,
go ahead.
have you had those talks with the mayor's office about putting this into ordinance?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't be speaking to the mayor about that. I'd be speaking to the to the members of Metro Council about that. You know, coming together and working with our constituents to see what they would like to see. And I believe that that was already presented once before. So we would take a dive deep into that and making that come to fruition. Because right now, the city is losing hope. You know, especially with this judge throwing this out. And I believe it was without prejudice. So looks like we may be in some trouble, right? Also, I have a huge concern just about Chief Humphrey stating that, you know, that the police were the same as the community. Well, they don't act like it, right? Um, so, and just when it comes to being accountable, you know, we need LMP accountable for their actions. Yeah, we know that there are some good actors, but we also know that there are still some bad actors that were not let go.
Yeah. We know that there's a culture problem in LMPD. If we didn't have a culture problem in LMPD, we wouldn't have this press conference today. So we have to address that culture problem, and we have to acknowledge that culture problem. I don't feel that Chief Humphrey did that today, but I hope that we do come to that through this process. I'll add to the question about whether or not we've consulted with the mayor about the need for an ordinance for a consent decree. The mayor didn't consult with us before his announcement here today for this program. And so, you know, we're going to have to figure out what we believe the city needs and to decide what our branch of government is going to do about that. I'll just say that, you know, when the mayor talks about equal representation of the community on any kind of community engagement board for the consent decree, the need for the consent decree was not even throughout the community. The West End, the Black community, needs to have a stronger voice in any community involvement for a consent decree, because let's face it, we have decades, centuries of unequal justice in the city of Louisville, of racial discrimination in our policing. That's why we need a consent decree. That's why the West End has asked for years for real civilian power over LMPD.
You all both talked to the mayor a couple minutes ago. Was that anything you can share about that conversation?
Well, I asked him about Ed Harnett because he was asked the question, was he going to be kept? He didn't answer that. So we're pushing for Ed because when you get a new when you get a a new inspector general, then they have to start all over. We need Ed to stay there. He's very familiar, with the consent decree. So we're going to be pushing for him to stay. And he did not answer that question. He just kind of ran right over it. So that is one of the things that I will be speaking with him about. That's vital.
Yeah, has there been any, friction? Has there been friction with the inspector general and LMPD in the mayor's office? Sure, there has been. That's his job. There's supposed to be friction there.
Yeah.
That should not enter into whether or not he is reappointed. He should be reappointed.
With him not speedily answering the question, does that give you insight that he won't reappoint?
One thing I kind of know for sure, what that I've learned is that Mayor Greenberg, if I'm a little cautious if he is going to keep him because I think that he would have spoke to that. I think he would have just said it right out. Yeah, of course. He didn't speak to it.
And the Inspector General spoke recently at Metro Council.
Yes, he did, and that was where like he asked us to advocate for him to stay. So which kind of means that he knows that they're not looking to rehire him. But it is vital that Ed Harness stays. If you get a new inspector general in there, then it slows the process down. It starts it all over again. They have to investigate. Ed Harness is already familiar with the consent decree. He's very familiar with LMPD, the concerns, and he already has a relationship with the community. And I don't see any reason why they would not keep him.
The police chief spoke about during his address that he believes he's seen a sense of trust rehabilitated with the public and LMPD in the past 4 years. Do you agree with that? Have you seen that in your constituents?
Well, I'll speak to that. I know that he said it was certain zip codes. I would like to see the data. I would like to see the data that proves that there's been trust, and I would like to know who said that.
I'll say that, when I was campaigning for this office, I knocked a lot of doors. That was not the message that I heard from the community. Definitely not in Park Hill and Algonquin, which are areas that I represent. That's not the primary feeling about where we are in this process, no.
Do you think this gives the community confidence that change is going to come from within with the federal consent decree just not happening?
Absolutely not. I feel like now that the community feels like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I feel like also it's going to light a fire under those council members, that was elected to serve. I think that it's going to light a fire under government accountability, which it already should have. Government accountability is the committee that has the powers of subpoena powers, to bring people in front of Metro Council to hold them accountable. But even prior to that, there has to be an ordinance, okay, that government accountability would go off of, that's holding LMPD accountable. And I did hear Chief Humphrey say that the mayor would fire him, and that's probably no doubt. But my question is not if the mayor will fire Chief Humphrey. We know that the mayor will fire somebody if he needs to, right? The question is if Chief Humphrey will fire the people that he needs to fire.
Yeah, I don't want to see Chief Humphrey fired. I want to see LMPD successful in reform, into us meeting the need to have a culture change in LMPD, for us to stop seeing the community that we are serving as a community that needs to be occupied, that is a problem to be solved instead of a community be served. We have to have that police reform. I don't want Chief Humphrey fired. I want us to be successful, and I do think to be successful requires oversight outside of executive office.
Anything else either of you would like to add?
I just think it just needs to be community policing. You know, that's it. I'm a firm believer. Again, I'll say this, that Greenberg, I trust that. It's just that Humphrey has, you know, he has a department to look over, right? And having those set of lenses, he's been there for a very long time, you know, and we have not seen a lot of officers that was active in this Breonna Taylor, case get let go. They're still there. So it's for me, I understand that, we don't want anybody to let go, but, when we have bad actors, all the time, they'll just stay in LMPD until it's time to retire out if they're not let go. It's not if the mayor will let Humphrey go. I know he will. It's what goes on the inside. And there's been not a lot of LMPD officers let go.
The only thing I'll add is, beyond the need for police reform, we also must make real investments in addressing root causes of crime and violence. We have had the same policy for addressing crime and violence for over 20 years. We have doubled what we spend in our budget since merger on police and incarceration. It has not solved the problem. We have to address the community needs and take care of our people. That's how we're going to address this problem. Thank you.
And on that subject, actually, the listening sessions that Mayor Greenberg, do you think this would be the best way to get the community, best way to get community input overall?
Well, I can answer that. One thing that the mayor have changed, I asked him before who was going to select the monitor, and he said that the administration would, that he would. I noticed today that he changed that. Today he said that the community would have a input. So I was glad to hear him say that. So, I'm definitely asking that the community pay attention to those meeting dates, so we can be very involved in appointing a monitor. That monitor is going to play a huge role in this agreement. So, I'm asking, the city, to come out, show up for whoever is chosen. We need to turn in as many names as possible, someone that the city trusts to be our monitor, so we can go ahead and get to moving. We're kind of behind now, like my colleague said. This isn't just 5 years and it's over. It's a plan, and we have to, go in and execute this plan. And the monitor is the most vital piece.
I think 2 meetings is too few.
Yes.
And I will say I want to know where they're going to be. I would really, really hope that there should be multiple, but there better be at least one meeting in the West End. And it better be very accessible.
I think you should say and spell your name. I forgot to ask at the beginning.
JP Lininger, JP Lyninger. Yeah.
Thank you. Which district are you in?
That's District 6. So Park Hill, Algonquin, the western half of Taylor Berry, Old Louisville, Limerick, Germantown, Shelby Park, a little bit of Meriwether, Harristown Point. Geographically smallest district.
All right, thanks.
If you do nothing else.
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 Stay live.